Do you know how many times we're practicing and I thought I didn't say something so...
So this is your Facebook now, eh?
Correct, yeah. Yeah. So I did see this though.
I'm the Chinese housewife.
Fabulous.
There we go. Now there's the notification. There we go.
Yeah, cool. I like it.
This one is a bit bigger. I was hoping to see. That's what I want to see. The people going live. 7. There we go.
And we had a good chat already.
We did. Okay. Brilliant. Okay. Evening, everyone. Okay. We're just starting early to allow people to come in.
So we're just gonna sit here and talk nonsense for 5 minutes or 10
Yeah.
minutes.
If you have any funny jokes. Thanks, Rick. I'll remember that in the office tomorrow.
How you doing, Pinky?
Oh. I think it's so funny watching yourself say what you just said 15 seconds later.
It's interesting.
It's like, I bet you I'll know what you're going to do in the future. You're going to laugh, not watch.
It's possible.
Okay. It's still... Watch this now.
I hope so.
And now you know what I feel like when I'm on an affiliate session. Yeah. It's warm, man.
Yeah, it is.
Have you shared this to QuickTrade? Cool. We can share from here.
Njileka Banda, welcome. How's it, Dwayne?
Hi. Thank you, Arthurs. See something.
Can you comment?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do.
Doesn't seem that right. Welcome, Gugu. How's it, Carl?
Charles jumped straight in there.
Hi,
Hi,
Zelda. Welcome.
Zelda. Hi, Papani.
Papani, welcome.
Papani, you're gonna make the money.
Sure, yeah, I think we'll chat about the fib at some point. Tonight might be a little bit more introductory than jumping straight into maximum technical analysis, but we'll definitely give it a shot at some point.
Evening, Precious. Mungani, let's do that. Evening, Shaw.
Hey, welcome to Next Trade. Good to see you guys online as well.
Give that man a rose.
No, never.
It's
It's just water.
appetizer.
Thanks, Dwayne.
I think it's important what Charles just raised there in the sense that, Charles, later in the stream, guys will ask for some suggestions or future videos that you would like, and if these are some of the things that you want to see, Charles, then definitely post it at the end and we can help you. Ernst, welcome.
Hey, Treasurer. It was good meeting you today.
Oh.
Good to have you on board. Welcome. Good to see some familiar faces. Hey guys, while we're still waiting for people to log in, it's a good idea to go and share this this link and this event on your page as well. Maybe there's someone out there who could benefit from this evening who hasn't seen the invite or seen the link as yet. So please do go out and share it with everybody that you can.
What I want to do, if you don't mind, is just doing that myself.
I'm going to have to sit a bit more up straight in my chair. Lockdown hasn't been good for me, and I can see on the video that that's quite evident.
Yeah, when I do this, when I crouch, my book pops out.
Yeah, let's put it in.
Why do you think my coffee is there? No, share this video with, no? Okay, so obviously I think we just give it a couple of minutes, let people join. Okay guys, if you have any questions to start off with, you can fire it away. Hey Vincent, how you doing? Oh, Kagiso.
Awesome, thanks Kagiso. Knowledge is power, hey? It's good to be schooled.
Kagiso, so you didn't share it with your friends? She said, not my mates. Okay.
Hey Amor, good to see you.
Oh,
Welcome.
there we go. I feel like this is the movies. I'm gonna run out of coffee before we start. No, that do it too. Finish your popcorn first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that always happens, eh? I'm like 10 minutes into the movie and the popcorn's finished.
Okay, look at your partner and you're like, who's gonna take one for the team?
Yeah.
No.
Thanks, welcome.
He's got the most nicknames up there.
Thanks, Titanium Lloyd Lekwabe. Remind me about that one tomorrow when we chat.
Don't worry, Vincent, I can hold my liquor. It might not be coffee. No, it really is. Oh.
Some of them still have to create accounts like I did. Sihle, are you not on Facebook, or are you referring to a trading account?
It's Facebook. Yeah. What was that? No. You got the Ernst. Yeah, should we give it one more minute and then we just get started?
Yeah, I think if we wait till 5 past, that's good enough.
Okay.
Yeah. Irish coffee.
I just want to forward the link to a client. Okay, there you go. It's going to find on flight mode.
You had a good call on the background there, Coral. It would have been just black.
With the gold logo.
Oh, are you dropping me in?
Hi Lee, how you doing?
Welkom Lee.
Okay, shall we get started?
Yeah, man, let's get started.
Okay, fantastic. Good evening, everyone. What's very important, please understand this evening that these are the views expressed of either myself or Linton White and not endorsed by QuickTrade. So there is that disclaimer. So it's not construed as advice. The purpose of today is to have Linton here next to us. So welcome. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
And I think it's going to be informative for everyone out there. I think one thing people have is questions, and hopefully they can get a lot answered tonight and more things to follow.
No, thanks for the idea. I think it was very cool.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that it's definitely going to broaden the horizon for quite a few people. I'm hoping that there'll be some education that comes through these
sessions.
Yeah.
So what, if you had one goal from or takeaway from today's meeting, or let's call it a chat, what would it be?
Well, I think I'm very driven by the success of people.
Okay.
And not only by the success of myself. So if somebody can take some valuable information from this evening and apply it to their trading journey and make their life easier and hopefully financially more beneficial, then that's what I would be able to take away from this.
And here's my thing that I want to ask before we get into the questions and allow you guys to obviously answer is, why is that the case with you and not a lot of people? I feel a lot of people like to hold on to secrets or onto their golden nuggets or strategies.
So there's a word that goes around in the world called karma. And though I'm not a firm believer in karma itself, I believe that what you put out there is what you're going to get back.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't hold information close to my chest. I try and help as many people as I can because one day I might be the one that needs some help.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us, and let's
Cool.
get into it.
Awesome.
So let me ask, who is Linton White? Tell me about yourself.
Do you want the long story or the short story?
You can give me both.
Oh no, guys! Like in a nutshell, I think first and foremost, Linton is a father.
Okay.
Linton is a fiance. Looking forward to walking down that road as well.
You're getting married sometime soon?
Yeah, sometime soon, probably before the end of the year. So that's very exciting.
Brilliant.
But in terms of who I am career-wise, it's been a long time in the making. So I started out as a tool and die maker, believe it or not, many years ago.
Okay, I'm going to ask, what is that?
So I was a guy that worked with my hands. If you know what that little plate is that goes on the top of a lighter, that little aluminium plate
Okay.
that's wrapped around the top of a lighter, there's
Yes.
a big steel press tool that makes those, and I used to
Make the steel press
to
tool.
make the tool that goes into the press that makes the little thing on a lighter and various other things as well. And that's how I started out my career, is working with my hands. And at some point I realized that that's not what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Okay.
And I got into sales and ultimately into real estate sales, which was very successful for a number of years. I started a real estate sales business in Durban, and that went very well for quite some time. And in 2009, the markets, obviously everybody knows there was a big crash in the markets, and I needed to find a way to augment my income.
Okay.
And my father had been trading for a while, and he said, hey, why don't you give this a bash? So I got into it.
And what happened?
Well, I put 50,000 Rand into my first trading account. I doubled it in 2 weeks, and I thought that this was a really easy thing to do. and figured that the rest of the world must be doing it as well, and I've been stupid to wait so long to get on board. And in the third week, I lost it all.
Okay.
So my initial 50k I put in, plus my 50k that I made on top of that, I lost everything in week 3, and I realized that there's 2 lessons in trading, and one is you can make a lot of money from trading, and 2 is you can lose a lot of money from trading. So the key for me was to get the knowledge to make sure that I was on the winning side more than on the losing side.
Okay.
And then through various experiences, I ended up deciding that trading was a career choice and not just a way to augment my income. I got the knowledge that I needed to gain in order to become a successful trader. Then worked with a couple brokers, and I've moved on from there. I was with a broker who recently actually saw their demise, JP Markets. Some of you will know JP Markets quite well, I'm sure. And when the wheels fell off there, I decided that there was 2 options: was either to go back into broking myself or to partner up with the right broker, and that's brought me to QuickTrade.
But that's fantastic, because that's what I was going to ask next, is what are you currently working on? Or what are you currently doing? So there's been a journey, and it's been awesome. I know there's been a lot of blood, sweat and tears got into that, but where are you now? What are you doing? What are you busy with?
So I think what I'm busy with is very aligned with what QuickTrade is also busy with, and what we're trying to do is expand footprint in South Africa and into Africa, and probably globally as well, in the months and years to come. So there's a lot of people who throw the word ethical around in terms of what they're looking for in a broker, and that's exactly what I was looking for when I made my decision in terms of who I was going to partner with on this journey. So it's to create a footprint with an ethical broker. People can trust a broker and work with somebody for the long term. So that's what we're busy with. I want to create opportunity. I want to give knowledge away. I want to help people create financial freedom and real wealth for themselves over a period of time. It's definitely not an overnight project.
Well, that's a fantastic thing. I'm going to jump ahead here, and I'm going to actually ask you. You obviously chose a broker for a particular reason, and I'm assuming you had multiple offers. What would you look for when you're choosing a broker, for the viewers out there who, obviously with what's transpired in the past, and I don't know if you would agree with the lockdown happening, people are desperate for cash and there's scammers out there. So when you're selecting a broker, what do you look for?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, because I think a lot of people look at the wrong things when selecting a broker. The one thing you need to understand about trading is that it's definitely not a get-rich-quick scheme. And if your choice of broker is based on the fact that you can make a lot of money very quickly trading certain instruments, then you're probably setting yourself up for disaster. Trading is something that if you change your mindset from what I can make tonight and tomorrow and next week to what can I do over the next 6 months, over the next year, what is my 5-year plan, what do I want to achieve over a 10-year period, then your objectives in terms of the choice of broker differ. I want to build a relationship with a broker that I can be with for the next 10 years, for the next 20 years.
What tool do you use to give that visual representation of a 5-year, 10-year plan? Because it's easy to sit back and look at dreams and goals, but what tool would you use, or the guys can go on and actually do it themselves to actually give them a good understanding of, if I have 10% return per month, where does that get me?
So I like to use a compound interest calculator. It's something that I started using a number of years ago. I'm probably about 5 years down my plan of my 10-year strategy. And that is, it's a plan that really shows you the difference between what you would achieve through normal investment plans and ideas and trusts and that type of thing, as opposed to what you would earn as somebody who's trading the financial market successfully but consistently. And that brings me back to your question about why QuickTrade. What are the reasons that I chose this broker for? And first and foremost, it's because of the long-term relationship that I can build with QuickTrade. And it's the fact that I know that QuickTrade is focused on an ethical business. Not only because I've met the people in the company and I know that they're focused on ethics, but also because they have a really good standing with the FSCA, which is the Financial Sector Conduct Authority.
So for the guys on the viewing tonight, how do you, okay, so obviously you've got access because of what you built up. How do they then find what is ethical and what's unethical without having access to being able to talk to people? What, if they were going on and choosing a broker, what would you ask them to have a look for?
So that's the very first thing is I'd look for, is this broker regulated by the FSCA? So you go onto the FSCA website and you can actually search the broker name and see if they come up under any form of license. That's the first place you go and check. The next place you go and check is you can go and read reviews of brokers online. You can see what people are saying about them. Are people battling to get their withdrawals? What are deposits like? Is the broker actually physically located within your country? I hear a lot of South Africans lately saying because of what happened at one particular broker that all local brokers are just, you shouldn't deal with local brokers. And that's actually the worst thing you can do is just deal with international brokers. What happens if your money disappears? What happens if something goes wrong and you need to actually go and sit in front of someone and talk to them and say, listen,
But you can't.
I had 100K with you, where is it?
No, you can't walk in, well, I suppose now you can just walk into a building or a building.
Yes,
Okay.
but what if you're trading with a broker who's just international, who's just operating out of Cyprus?
There's no
You
recourse.
lost 20K, or you're going to spend the costs to fly to Cyprus to go and get your 20K if you can even get it back.
If you even know where they are.
Exactly. So for me, it's a thing of understanding who you're dealing with, meeting them, speaking to them physically, and taking it from there. You've got to understand that they are in good standing. There's another license that recently came into play, which is called an ODP license.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to go into full detail about it, but brokers who don't have ODP compliance at this point in time are in hot water, and at some point those brokers are going to be pulled over the coals about it.
Like JP Markets potentially.
Like JP Markets, they were shut down because they never applied for their ODP license. They weren't compliant with those requirements. And they were shut down because of it. There's 258 million rand of client funds lying there.
Do you have money stuck there?
I do.
Okay.
So it's not only client money, it's my money too.
Yes.
I got caught as well.
Okay.
And it's important, that was a big part of my decision after that, was making sure I know who I'm dealing with. I know what their compliance is like. I know what their focus is and what they want to do. Rather than just, hey, here's a good broker. Ooh, that instrument looks great. Hey, I'm just going to put some money in there, trade it, and if I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. Too bad. But if my money's in there and I can't get it out, then there's a problem.
And then people say, I've been scammed, etc.
Exactly. But actually, were you dealing with the right person, the right broker? Were you scammed, or did you just deal with the wrong people and your money's lying there now?
Yeah.
And that's a very big lesson that a lot of South Africans learned. Recently, I learned that lesson.
Now I'm going to throw you a firecracker here.
Mm.
Why are you working if you're trading so successfully?
I get asked that question a lot.
That's why I'm asking it again, so everyone can see.
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot. And sure, I think if I had to just sit at home and stare at my screen all day, I'd go a little bit crazy.
I wouldn't have an issue making the money you do doing that. It's better than watching Arsenal.
It's not good.
And it's a joy, no joking.
It's not good. I might also be the Arsenal supporter. But no, I feel like I wouldn't have my finger on the pulse as much as I do if I wasn't working.
Okay.
I wouldn't wake up as early as I do. I wouldn't have the same mindset that I do. And that'll affect your trading.
So it's a habit you're getting in that you're forming.
It's habits. It's an habitual thing. Trading is very based on cycle. So if you break your cycle, chances are likely your trading is going to take a hit somewhere.
But here's my next question then for the guys out there. How much time do you actually spend analyzing the markets? I think people often think, I need hours or minutes. there is, guys, obviously, please understand there's an element to your journey that makes it a lot quicker to analyze the markets. But how much time do you think you actually spend in a 24-hour period?
On actual analysis or looking at my charts?
Both.
Okay, so I'll give you two answers then.
Fantastic.
On analysis, I would say I spend 5 to 10 minutes per day.
Okay.
Looking at my charts, probably another 5, maybe 10 minutes a day. I think it's important to just reiterate what you said, is it's a journey that's got me to that point.
Yeah.
I no longer look at the 1 minute or the 5 minute or the 15-minute chart, and seldom the 1 hour chart.
Somebody just said Man United. Sorry, I just...
Yeah, I won't hold it against you.
Can we kick him off? I'm joking. Just joking, guys.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's important to just reiterate that it's a journey that gets you to that place. I've been trading for a long time now, and so I've upped the time frame that I trade, which means that if you're trading the 4-hour chart and you're looking at your chart every 1 hour, you're doing something wrong.
Okay.
Because you're only looking at formations on the 4-hour chart. So technically, you should only be looking at your chart every 4 hours to see what the next candle's done. If you're trading the daily time frame, why are you looking at your chart 10 times a day? There's only one candle busy forming. So for me, it doesn't make sense that people who are trading larger time frames are looking at their charts all the time. I always say to people that I'm trying to educate and teach how to trade, not that I teach anymore, but I try and
Why
educate.
don't you though?
We'll get there.
Yeah.
If you find that you need to open your charts every 10, 15, 20 minutes, every hour to have a look at your trades, your lot size is too big.
Okay.
For your
What
account.
does that mean for the people watching?
How do you mean? What does that mean?
Well, I think a lot of us do it. So that's what I wanted to ask you, is that in your opinion then, why do you think people are successful versus not successful trading? I know probably the one answer to the one, and then I'd like to hear what else you have to say.
Greed.
Okay.
Greed is the biggest reason why people don't make money trading. And it brings me back to the lot size.
Okay.
That's how I try and help people adjust their lot sizing. It's not by saying trade X lot size for every rand or every 1,000 rand or every 10,000 rand in your account, because my risk appetite is different to yours.
Okay.
So I can't tell you go and trade a 0.01 for every 10,000 rand in your account, because you might be less risk averse than I am or more risk averse. So your comfortable factor is what counts. So if you're looking at trading on the 4-hour time frame and you're looking at your charts every 15 minutes, it means that your risk is too high. It means that you're looking at your charts more because your lot size that you've traded is too big. You're risking more of your account than you should be from a comfortable perspective.
So do you think it could be a fruitful exercise? It's hard with the psychology on a demo, but trying to find your sweet spot for your risk appetite.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. You need to find out with real money, not with demo money. It's not the same. You can go and open a 20 lot position on a demo account and be comfortable with that risk, and the second it's real money, you freak out. So you need to test yourself with real money to say, okay, I'm comfortable with this amount on my account. I'm comfortable to trade a micro lot per 1,000 rand. Or I'm comfortable to trade a micro lot per 5,000 rand. Whatever works for you in terms of being comfortable. I generally find that I trade. Now, it's not a secret that I trade with various brokers because I like to keep my finger on the pulse. But with some brokers, I'll trade a 0.01 lot size for every 100,000 rand I have in a trading account. So on $1 million, I'll only be trading a 0.1 lot size. And people look at me and they're like, really?
Why? How?
Like, why?
Surely.
But my perception in trading has changed. I'm not looking at making 30, 40, 50% in a month. That's not what I'm targeting. It's the consistency and the snowball effect of that consistency that builds real wealth over time. So I'm not interested in making gazillions overnight, because when you do that, that's when you lose your investment and you've got to start over again. You've got to start over again.
And then how much would that be if you didn't start over?
So
It's a question from the
Okay.
user.
Okay.
Let's see what is the
Let's
user
ask.
asking.
What was your first source of income and how did you fund your accounts to start trading?
Tabiso, I was in the real estate game for a while. So the guys who were here at the beginning of the chat heard me speak about the fact that I was in sales and real estate. And I used that money to get into trading. That's essentially where I got my initial capital from, and I've built it from there. I lost a lot of money for the first 2 years in trading because of greed. I was that guy that was looking at my phone all the time, doing this, like, what's going on with my trades?
Trying to chase profits or chase losses.
Correct. And after 2 years, I've found that every time you've got to refund an account, you're starting back at square one. So after 2 years of trading, I was no better off, except for some knowledge.
Yeah.
I was in the exact same position. And I started thinking, okay, what am I going to do to change? What do I need to do to change that? And the biggest thing was to down the lot size. Understanding my risk parameters, being more comfortable to have my trades run for a week, 2 weeks, a month. Sometimes today I'm in a trade for 3 months. And I'm very comfortable with that. Because my long-term objective is what I'm looking at now. I risk smaller amounts, which actually gives me bigger gains.
Fantastic.
Once your trade's in a profitable position, you can put your stop loss in there and walk away from it and let it run.
So somebody asked there, that's the first question, let's have a look at it here. There was a question, so how much would you think is ideal to start trading the Nasdaq, or does it go back to what you're saying? Yes, there's a monetary amount, but ideal is also risk management.
Okay, so you can put an amount on that, and the reason I'm going to say that is because I know what the average should be.
Okay.
More or less. Some people want to risk more, some people want to risk less, but there's like a happy medium.
So what's the happy medium?
So if you're going to fund an account with QuickTrade and trade the Nasdaq, you can comfortably start doing that from, I'd say, around about 5,000 Rand and up. If you want to look at sort of more long-term strategies, trading the 4-hour charts, maybe the daily chart, 5,000 Rand and up will do it with QuickTrade.
Why would you say 5,000?
Because on a 0.01 lot size, the average movements in the market will allow you to have enough room to breathe and not to panic, and still to make profits at the end of the day. You might be able to add into positions like I do. Many people would have seen my posts before about how I average into positions. I don't just take one trade. I start very small, and as the price maybe moves against me, I actually add into that position and I average into it. Bear in mind, guys, this is not financial advice. Okay? This is how I trade, and it's taken me a long time to get to understand how these movements work. And that's why I'm saying 5,000 Rand. With that type of lot size, you'll be able to manage your position, and you'll be able to teach yourself how to handle a drawdown, how to psychologically work through a drawdown and come out okay at the end of it. I mean, you went through it recently, where there was 1,500 point drop on the Nasdaq, and you rode it out.
Yeah. Well, I think what's been quite cool, obviously, I get to rub shoulders with Linton, and I think, was it Monday night or Tuesday night with Belinda and Bill Gates, and there was this massive drop, and I was down 900 Rand, and I went, it's gonna change, and I think I'm only down about $100 now.
Exactly.
And that was awesome. And the bigger the account, the less stressed I was, because you know that it happens. And there's another question here though that he's read your book. Fantastic.
Okay.
Mavura, he said, are you still using an 8 and 21 moving average strategy? This is a tough one, because if you say yes, everyone goes and puts it into the MT5. Okay. So
Mavura, let me give you the long answer on that one. My foundation on all of the strategies that I trade started there. That was a strategy that I developed a couple of years ago. In fact, quite a few years ago now, probably about 5 years ago. I don't know if you are employing it correctly with the pullbacks and the take profits and the 2 positions and looking for a take profit on the first one and holding the second one, but what I can tell you is that the foundation of that strategy is very, very effective as long as you apply the stop loss rules and the first take profit with your second position. It's really a good foundation to work off of. I do apply other things that I've learned since I wrote that book to my strategy that help it be more successful in terms of using it only trend-based, not taking every single trigger based on certain reasons. So yes, I do still use it, but I have adjusted it since that point in time.
There's another question coming in there, guys. I'm going to ask, please, if you want to tag your friends in this. This is probably the one time, as you help us grow, we help you grow. So I think the bigger this gets, the easier it is for us to help you and give back and vice versa. But we've got here, somebody's asked, do you have an exact strategy for your NASDAQ? And what lot size would you personally recommend?
Look, I'm not going to recommend lot sizes. I think that it comes down to the comfort factor that I was talking about, Shoal. So you've got to start out. What I would recommend actually is this, and it's not advice. I'm giving you a recommendation in terms of what I would do. So start out with X amount in your account. Trade the smallest possible lot size you can. So trade a micro lot. Whether it's 5,000 Rand, 10,000 Rand, or 50,000 Rand in your account, trade a micro lot. Start there. If you're comfortable with that and you can see how it moves, do a couple trades, see how it goes for you, and then move on. Increase your lot size systematically until you get to a point where you start feeling it's a little bit more nerve-wracking to trade that. When you get to that point, you'll know, listen, okay, so this is kind of the max.
The sweet spot.
The sweet spot. This is the max that when you start feeling something when you place a trade, when you start feeling, ooh, about that trade moving, that means that you've reached the max of the lot size that you should be trading according to your account size. And I would then pull it back a bit from there. Pull it back to a place where you can trade, you can open a trade, you can walk away, make a cup of coffee, go talk to a mate, do a meeting.
Have a live Q&A.
Have a live Q&A and not have to look at your charts, look at your trades and be comfortable with that. Then you know you're trading the right lot size for the money that you've got
You have your phone on you?
in your trading account. I do have my phone on. No, my phone is over there.
Oh, yeah. That was a bit of a brain fart. I think what Linton is almost saying, I mean, it's that ability. We're having a chat now, sitting on here, and actually, one of them has gone into profit whilst we're having a chat.
Fantastic. That's good news.
So if you would like to check, not joking. Okay, so there's and I think that's what, rubbing shoulders that you've given me, is I haven't had that need. But let's go to another one. Somebody actually asked, and I would like you to explain what a spread is, in the sense he wrote there, how does a spread disadvantage or advantage your trade? Now, let's debunk the question and then answer what a spread is. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to begin at the beginning with that.
Yeah.
Okay. There's mainly two different ways that brokers make money.
Okay.
Okay. In terms of your cost to trade. One is commissions and one is spread. Commissions are a set fee per instrument. So for example, let's say the NASDAQ costs 50 Rand per 0.01 that you trade. Now that isn't what it costs, I'm sucking a figure to say this is how commissions work. Okay? So a commission would be a set fee. When you open your trade, generally speaking, half of the commission would be deducted from your trading account, regardless of what's going on with your trade. Okay? And when you close the trade, the other half of the commission would be deducted. So if it was 50 Rand, it would be 25 when you opened and 25 when you closed, and that's it. Regardless of what you win or lose on the trade, that's what you're going to pay. On a spread, the actual cost of the trade is calculated into your profit and loss. Alright, so when you trade on commissions and you close your trade, let's say you made 100 Rand profit,
Less 25.
less 25, less 25. So
Net.
actually there's 50, net 50. Alright, that's what you're going to see in your statement.
Mm-hmm.
When you're trading on spreads, there's a difference between your buy or your bid and your ask price. Okay?
Could it be similar to going to an exchange bureau where there's the actual physical dollar, what it is in the
Yes.
markets, and then how much they actually give you for it?
And the reason for that is because the exchange bureau needs to make money, right?
Correct. Okay.
So, I mean, if they just give you whatever the price is of the dollar
And
rand,
then
they'll make no money. So there's got to be a spread involved, and that's why there's a spread involved when you trade with a spread-based account. That money is actually calculated into the profit and loss that you see on the open trade.
Now, question. Does it always, sometimes, or not equal the same amount? Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
So
Depending on the size, or do you want to elaborate?
yeah, so I mean, spreads are variable in most instances. With QuickTrade, we offer a fixed spread.
Mm-hmm. What's a fixed spread?
So let's say, for example, on the Euro USD, there's a 2 pip spread.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever the value of 2 pips is, according to the lot size that you trade. Now
It's
we're getting
fixed.
very technical.
No, yeah.
We're getting very technical, but there's a fixed
fee.
spread.
Okay,
Correct.
spread, yeah.
But the profit and loss that you see going up on your account has already got that calculated
Okay.
into it. Okay, so that's important to understand. Now, there are brokers that offer variable spreads.
Okay.
Okay, so in some instances, when there's very low volatility and that type of thing, you'll find that spreads are really, really small. Okay, so it's cheap to trade.
Cheaper.
Cheap
Okay.
to trade. Then in periods of really high volatility, when there's a big news event coming out or something like that, brokers capitalize on that movement in the market. There's more volume being traded, and they widen the spreads.
So Belinda and Bill Gates get divorced yesterday on the Nasdaq. There's a run. It's more
Correct.
expensive to trade at that time.
Exactly that. So brokers will capitalize on moments when there's a lot of volume and a lot of volatility in the market by widening spreads, and in fact your fees can go up substantially when you trade. So in my opinion, it's far better to trade with a broker offering fixed spreads.
So here's a good one. A gentleman said that guys, can we at least have a WhatsApp group to help each other with analysis?
Kulani. So it is definitely going to be in your interest to join our trading group. We don't have WhatsApp groups to share analysis purely because group phase, it gives a lot of people opportunity to share analysis that may be incorrect or may also be uneducated, if I can put it that way. There's a lot of so-called personal gurus out there. Carl, will you just delete that comment, please? We can't have people sharing WhatsApp groups on the chat. Sorry, Kulani. We don't allow that, unfortunately.
Cool.
So to get back to the purpose of that question was, I believe that having a professional environment where analysis is done is far more beneficial for traders than relying on the opinions of many people who may have only been trading for a week or two or a month or 6, whatever the case may be. So we've actually got a trading room with qualified and licensed traders who sit there and discuss analysis and possible opportunity in the market, and that will be far more beneficial for you to join.
Okay. So Maseko Mas has asked, can you explain what a swap? I go into Mr. Price and I...
Yeah, so
Joking.
if you give me your coffee for my water,
That's a swap.
that's a swap. No, essentially, a swap is actually an interest calculation. Okay, so if you go loan money from the bank,
Okay.
they charge you an interest for
Interest.
the money that you owe them.
Yes.
Correct. So with a broker that offers leverage, the broker is actually loaning you money. So if you've got an open trade overnight on a 1 to 500 leveraged account, the broker's given you, actually let me take one step back there. If you've got 1,000 Rand and you put it in your trading account, in a 1 to 500 trading account,
Leverage now.
leverage,
Yes.
correct. You actually have 500 times purchasing power, so you can buy for 500,000 Rand, correct. So if you open a trading position that is holding, let's say, 50,000 Rand margin open, you've loaned money from the broker because you've actually only got 1,000 Rand in your trading account.
But you've leveraged up to
So
500.
you've not loaned, you've borrowed money
Borrowed.
from the broker.
Yeah.
Okay? So swaps are actually the interest that the broker will charge you on the money that you've borrowed overnight. That's essentially what a swap is.
Fantastic. Now, this is something that I also want to maybe have a look at, guys, is that Constance, I hear that you say that you had to learn however the terminology used here makes you feel that you need a whole lot more training. Now, obviously, I can see people on the chat assisting you with that. What's important is, how did you deal with the Swahili when you started trading?
It's being a sponge.
Okay.
You've got to absolutely soak up all the information and knowledge that you can.
Okay.
the very, very, very important thing is to choose your source of knowledge very carefully. Don't go to the guy who just sent you a screenshot on Instagram and said, hey, look, I make so much money, let me teach you how. 9 times, actually, let me rephrase, 99 times out of 100, those guys don't really know what they're doing. They maybe had one positive trade and they're trying to make some bucks out of people. They take a screenshot of it, send it to them and say, I know how to trade. But none of them can actually show you a history of results. I can sit here and, although we're using my phone to stream now, I can probably log into my account and I can show you my last year of trading. I can actually show you the last 2, maybe 3 years of trading where I've made profits consistently. And that is what you need to look for in someone if you're going to gain knowledge from them. Somebody that actually has knowledge, somebody that can show you, listen, I know what I'm doing. Here's the proof. Let me assist you with the knowledge that you need.
But now, somebody in your position, I know that you're super busy every day. You're not going to go and teach people. Where do they find that knowledge?
So, good question. Obviously, most people on this call or on this broadcast will know that QuickTrade is partnered with Stock Market College. Stock Market College has been around for, sure, I don't know, 20, 30 years.
I know I was 3 years old when it started.
Yeah. So there's valuable information in that structured learning environment. I know that a lot of the guys who have been through Stock Market College course, who have been diligent, who have done the full course, who've stayed the course and actually soaked up the information, are successful traders today. That said, it's also important to note that not everybody who goes to doctor school is going to be a brilliant doctor. You have to put in the time and the effort, and you have to apply yourself in order to make sure that you apply that knowledge to what you do.
And I think that's important with what you said, because I've seen you have many meetings with people almost arguing with you about knowledge, yet you can pull out your phone and show them what you're doing.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Next question.
It happens all the time.
It says there, can you share your Fibonacci strategy, please?
Philemon, I wish it was as simple as sharing a strategy with you.
Future video?
We can discuss the Fibonacci tool on a future video, definitely. It seems like there's a lot of people asking that question. Shoal asked it earlier as well. So maybe we'll plan a session to talk about how I use Fibonacci.
Okay.
But guys, you must also understand that in this session here, it's virtually impossible for me to share everything that I've learned that goes into how I use Fibonacci. There's a lot of information that I apply when I look at the Fibonacci tool. In fact, I can look at a chart now, generally
Without looking at the Fibonacci, it doesn't have
and
to
I
know
can tell you where the levels are.
Yeah.
So it's not as simple as just explaining how I use Fibonacci. There's so much that goes into it that you need a foundation to work off of first in order to understand how it works.
Okay. So we got Linton. Do you spend time on the Nasdaq chart, or can we execute a trade and leave it and let it do its thing? So I think it's probably just going back to entry, exit. How do you know when to exit, etc. Do you hope and pray when you place the trade, which I know you don't?
Okay, so that's an interesting question, Sean. I'll give you a tip. So let me tell you this. The one thing I very seldom, if ever, do is sell the Nasdaq. I'll only buy. I may use a sell to cover a buy that I'm trying to just hedge for a certain period of time and protect capital. But it's very seldom that I do that. I mainly look for buy entries on the Nasdaq, and the reason for that is because if you look at the trend of the Nasdaq on a larger time frame, not the 1 hour time frame or the 4 hour time frame, go look at the weekly time frame on the Nasdaq for the last 10, 15 years, maybe even 20 years, and you'll see that it's been going in one sort of general direction. Why you want to fight that trend, I have no idea. And so your question about just buying and holding, there's some validity to that when you're a trend-based trader. If you're only trading in the direction of a particular trend, generally speaking, what you want to do is buy and hold. But at some point, a trend does have a pullback, and if your account isn't big enough to manage that pullback, you're gonna be in trouble. So again, that comes down to risk management and lot sizing.
Carl, can you get my Georgia? It's in the office. Fantastic. So there's another question before my PC has load shedding. Is how do you mentally prepare yourself when opening trades? Do you meditate? No, I'm joking.
Gosh, it's a good question. I think I'm at a point now in my trading journey where I don't mentally prepare myself anymore. I have a set plan, I have a strategy, and I execute. When you start out trading, the mental preparation comes from the psychology side. So you need to, like I said, start out with a certain amount of money in your account and trade small lot sizes. Be comfortable with that. That's how I mentally and psychologically programmed myself for trading. You've got to get to a position where you stick to your plan. If you trade a strategy and halfway through your trade you take profit early, or you close the trade because it's against you for a certain reason, and you close it before it gets to your stop loss, you're not sticking to your plan, and you can't really call it a strategy anymore. So for me, it's very important from a psychological perspective that you have a plan, you have a strategy, and you stick to it. Regardless of the outcome, regardless of whether it becomes a stop loss or whether it gets to your take profit, you've got to have a plan and stick to it.
Okay,
I hope that makes sense.
I think this is a great one. How many trades do you win or lose?
I could go into detail there and sort of open my trade history and show you, but because of the style of trading that I have, let me start with how I traded 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I opened 2 positions when I opened a trade.
Every time?
Every time. Because my first position had a certain level, which was a take profit and a stop loss, which was a 1-to-1 risk. And the second position was left to run if my first one took profit. If that makes sense.
Yes, okay.
So when my first one took profit, my second position stop loss was based at entry, so I'd already covered my cost for the trade. I'd banked some money, and the open position was left to run to a certain period of time. So it's changed since then. My hit ratio there was probably 60 to 70%, where I was successful on my trading. And some months it was less, but I still made money. I think that's an important thing to understand, is that you might only be successful 4 trades out of 10, but if your risk to reward ratios are right, you'll actually make money. These days, because of the way I trade with small lots and a big account, and I average into positions, I'm successful probably 90% of the time.
I can testify to that. Speaking of which, do you trade volatility indices?
No, I don't.
I'm sure they're going to ask why. Are you part of the ICT trading cult?
I don't even know what the ICT trading cult is. Killen, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what that is, so I'm rather going to steer clear of it. Anything with the word cult in it freaks me out a little bit. So.
Yeah, before this gets shut down and the FBI.
I'll probably stay away from that.
Fantastic. So let's ask Alex here before we get to Philemon, is do you only use one strategy in your trading, or do you have several strategies?
It depends on the instrument that I'm trading.
Okay.
So for commodities, I have a particular type of strategy.
Okay.
The basis is very similar. The foundation of my strategy is very similar. But like, for example, the difference with the NASDAQ is that I don't want to sell it. With gold, I'll sell. With oil, I'll sell. It depends on the particular traits of the instrument that I'm trading as to how I amend my strategy for that instrument.
So is it important, what I'm hearing then for the guys out there, is they too, and sometimes it's not about finding somebody else's specific strategy, but finding what is attractive and appeals to your eye and how you see it, and finding something that makes sense to you. Does that make sense?
Very much so. Very much so. And that's the one big thing with only doing what a mentor tells you to do, is you never develop your own
flavor or whatever.
Yeah, your own flavor. I decided very early on in my trading journey that I think I've got enough gumption between my ears to figure this thing out for myself, and in that way I'm probably going to develop an approach to the market that works for me specifically. And that's what I did. So the strategies that I trade are unique to me. You can't go and Google Linton's NASDAQ strategy and go find it on Google. You can't go and, I can't tell you it's the crash and boom NASDAQ strategy that you can go and Google and find the strategy, because it doesn't exist on paper that way. It's here.
Yeah.
I taught myself this over the last decade. And today I can apply everything that I've learned over the last decade in a couple minutes a day.
And that, or like driving a car, in other words.
Correct.
We get to a couple of things and then we do it instinctively now.
Exactly that, yes.
So let's go into spreads or commissions. Which one's better?
Depends on your preference.
I personally, what I've noticed is because commission's a bit of a new thing and somebody actually sees the charge, people sweat bullets and then they want to go to spreads rather for the transparency.
My personal preference actually
Yeah,
is a commission-based account.
for the transparency aspect.
The transparency of it and the fact that I know exactly what my cost is.
Okay.
When you're trading on spreads, especially if it's a variable spread, there might be a slight difference. The main reason that I promote a spread-based account is because the general perception out there is that the profit and loss that you see on your trade is the profit and loss that you make when you close the trade. And a lot of people don't quite understand the commission side of it having to come off afterwards. So it can create confusion. So if you're new to trading, definitely stick to a spread-based account. Until you're comfortable with how trading works and how your spread affects your trades. And then start looking to move on to a commission-based account.
Which I think what Linton taught me a couple of weeks ago, whatever, was, now guys, the variable spread is very similar to Uber. In the morning it might be more expensive when there's a lot of traffic versus afternoon. Or midday. They have peak times in order to jump into the car versus 12 o'clock when there's not as much people. You know what I mean? They got a bit of a surcharge.
Exactly.
Volatility.
Exactly that, yes.
Mr. White, I remember a few weeks ago you grew a 400 Rand account to 4K. Can you give a few tips on how you did that?
I can give you a few tips on how I did that. So I stuck to trading an instrument that I know has a very strong trend firstly, which is the NASDAQ. I focused on entry points very carefully. So you've got to understand the movements on an instrument and you've got to have a set strategy. On a trending instrument, do you want to enter it right at the top? No. So you're going to wait for a certain amount of pullback, and that's where Fibonacci comes in.
Okay.
So I like to use Fibonacci retracements for entries. We'll have a look at that on probably one of our next sessions.
Yes.
I'm not going to go into detail on how I place a fib on a chart and what levels I enter. But to grow a small account, what you've got to do is stick to the minimum lot size. Don't open more than one trade at a time. That's literally it. If you open 2, 3, 4, 5 trades, you're putting your entire capital at risk, and the chances that you're going to blow that account is 99%.
I know somebody asked that earlier about multiple trading and too many trades. What would you say about that, or what you've just said?
It comes down to that comfort factor again.
Managing risk.
Managing risk. I am comfortable risking a certain percentage of my account. If I do that all on the first trade that I open, if I open a massive lot size and all of the percentage I'm willing to risk is on the table, that means I can't open another trade. I've got to hold that trade. Or decide when to close it and say, okay, that's it, that's my loss.
And you think that's where the losses happen, because it could be a good setup somewhere else.
Correct. But
And
you've leveraged everything on one
And
position.
you actually can't go into that trade, but you do.
Correct.
And you think that's going
Yes.
to offset this one.
Yes.
Okay. So, Gideon Thomas said there that he noticed when he's trading the NASDAQ that even though the results are positive, the NASDAQ drops.
Okay.
Guys, please ask questions. Keep them coming.
Yeah, look, that's a good question, actually. The thing you need to understand about how the market moves and works is that fundamental perception is X, but the actual impact to the economy is Y. And unless you're a full-on economist who understands how the news that comes out affects the economy as a whole and the globe as a whole, you're not in a position to look at news that comes out on one event and say, okay, that was positive for the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is comprised of a number of companies. it's not just one thing. So let's say the top 50 technology companies are all part of the NASDAQ. And that's one of the reasons that I like trading it, is because we're living in a technology age. Everything is based on technology these days. Everything we do is technology based. Take away your kids' Wi-Fi for a week and they're like drooling at the mouth, going crazy, you know. Everything is technology based these days.
Well, you select most restaurants, which one has the Wi-Fi?
Well,
the kids
yes.
do, yeah.
And how do you select the restaurant you go to?
Who has Wi-Fi?
You Google.
Yeah.
So,
That was
you know,
a great
again,
part.
so everything we do is technology based. So I want to trade an instrument that's part of that move, and that's why I trade the NAS. So to get back to your question, interpreting news that comes out and how it affects, firstly, the companies who comprise that instrument, and secondly, how it affects the country that they're part of, and thirdly, how it affects global economy is the only way that you can actually decipher whether that information is going to be positive or negative for that particular instrument.
And here's my question, Arnold. Is that something easy to do? The only reason why I asked that is I saw last year with clicks, we all know a certain event happened, and it wasn't negative on the market for clicks for the next couple of days. Even though the EFF was outside their door. and that sometimes deciphering whether it's going to be positive or negative might not be easy because we all have opinions.
And that's the key. We all have opinions. So even the top economists in the world differ in opinion.
Differ in opinion, yes.
So if they differ in opinion, it means that their interpretation is different to the guy next to them of how that particular news event is going to affect the global economy or the country's economy or just a particular company.
Okay.
Which means that, are we still streaming?
Yeah.
Yes. I just see that the video stopped.
It's cold movie out, so we froze here, guys. I'm joking.
So there's differences of opinion right at the top of the economy level, which means that traders who are entry traders and who aren't economists, our chances of actually predicting how news is going to affect the market is 1 in a million.
Yeah.
So why are we trying to do that?
So that's where technical analysis then
That's
comes
where
in.
technical analysis comes in. People often ask me, are you a technical trader or a fundamental trader?
You're not going to factor in fundamentals, but you maybe
Yes.
the technicals don't.
Well, I'm both. I'm both. When you look at a chart, the candle and how it's moving is a representation of the effects of fundamental information. How much oil has been exported to Japan today?
Has an impact.
That purchase price, that's where Forex comes from.
Okay.
Everybody thinks that the guys who sit in a room, that's where Forex comes from when they trade. No. Forex comes from international trade. That's the biggest
The exchange of money,
contribution to foreign exchange in the world. So how much oil has left the country today that that affects global economy and that affects the markets at the end of the day and affects how the candle moves. And so fundamental information is directly responsible for the chart representation, what you see on your screen. So when I'm a technical analyst and technical trader, I'm actually taking all fundamental information into account.
100%.
I'm not necessarily going to place a trade 2 minutes before DFP.
Or Donald Trump tweets and it affects the gold or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I might not necessarily place a trade just before a big news event because I can see when that's coming out. And I don't necessarily think I'm a great economist. So I'd rather wait and see how the market factors in that information and then trade. I'm not going to try and predict it because what if I get it wrong?
Now you're looking at the charts. Lani asked, what time frame do you use for entries?
Okay, so I actually do my setups on the weekly and daily time frame, and I enter on the 4-hour chart.
Okay.
On odd occasions, I'll enter on a 1-hour chart on particular types of instruments.
And then it says, do you prefer to open more trades when you're in profit or on a drawdown? I think again it's a difficult one to answer.
It's pretty much equal to both sides.
Okay.
I look at movements on a chart, and generally speaking, my entries as the price moves against me will be relatively similar to my entries as the price moves in my favor.
Okay.
And that's just based on wave theory. It's based on breakouts and flags and that type of thing.
Okay. And then a guy asked there, what's the best window to look at So 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 4 hours.
To make an entry or exit.
Yeah.
Juden, that really depends on your strategy. It depends on the size of your account. Smaller accounts, you need to trade smaller time frames. Larger accounts, you can start looking at bigger time frames. It really comes down to your personal risk appetite and how you react to the risk that you're taking. So I can't tell you which window is the best to look at. What I do know is that I prefer larger time frames because I feel like it gets rid of a lot of the noise. When I look at a 1 minute or a 5 minute chart, my head does this, and I'm like, what's going on? You know, I don't really get it. Why you want to sit there and stare at that? But
some people might enjoy that excitement.
Correct. Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I know guys that make a lot of money in that area.
So again, it's finding your sweet spot.
Exactly, what works for you. Yeah.
Luke says commodities or forex. Or opportunities.
I've made more money on commodities than on forex, but I prefer trading forex because I feel like I predict it better.
Okay, fantastic. Philemon says, before you place a trade, what questions do you ask yourself? Can I get a coffee?
I used to ask myself, I had like a set little sheet of
Serious?
questions.
Like checklist?
A little checklist. I said stuff like, how long has my analysis been in play?
Okay.
So is it something I've just seen?
Okay.
Or is this something that I've been expecting
Okay.
for a period of time? I used to ask myself, have you had anything to drink? I'm dead serious. That's a question I used to ask myself. And in fact,
Okay, but
because of an event,
you ask yourself, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a certain set of questions that you've got to set up for yourself, whether it be the rules of your strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So, have my moving averages crossed in the right direction?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Has there been a pullback to a certain level that I'm expecting? Yes. If all the conditions of your strategy are met, those are the questions you should ask yourself.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, then somebody says, as a beginner, which trade is simple, safe, and low risk, CFD or forex? I might know the answer with knowledge, but yeah.
I prefer forex to CFDs for learning. The reason for that is because with a CFD, if it's linked to a company, for example, there's more information that can affect that price in a more volatile way and very quickly than what it can a currency. Currencies are big, it's based on a whole country's economy. There's various factors that go into play there. It's not just like a company whose director resigned or who was accused of fraud, for example. And that's happened. You can go through history and go check out Pinnacle, for example. Their director was nailed for fraud and their share price fell something like 80% in a month.
Well, I think indirectly Sasol, with what happened between Ukraine and Russia, nailed the oil price, and then not many people know that Sasol actually involved in a lot of products like Vaseline, etc. And 19 Rand a share at one point from 573.
Correct. So with Forex, the likelihood of such a huge thing coming in and completely wiping you out immediately is a lot lower, in my opinion.
Because the amount of money in the market.
Correct.
Okay.
It takes a lot more to move that price
than
what it would just a single CFD price.
Supply, do you trade supply and demand?
Everybody trades supply and demand to some extent. Whether your strategy incorporates actual supply and demand or not, the thing that moves whatever chart you're looking at is contributed to supply and demand.
Okay, so guys, keep your questions coming. I'm going to just ask a few more there. Okay, so if I had to ask in terms of the trading industry, if you could change one thing, what would it be?
That's a very easy one to answer, actually.
Okay.
Everybody is very scared of regulation and what effect it has on the industry as a whole. I'm all for it.
Why?
Because the general perception out there that I get nailed with all the time is that trading is a scam. Forex is a scam, this is a scam, that is a scam. And that's because there are so many scam artists in this industry. I have an occurrence probably weekly where somebody uses my photographs, goes and creates a fake account somewhere and is getting deposits from people and asking for money to trade for them and do all sorts of funky stuff. And the sad thing is that people get caught by it all the time. I would like to see a huge uptick in the severity of people being dealt with for that type of action.
So repercussions.
Repercussions. If you get nailed for taking money from someone and going and losing it on the market, if that person has deposited money directly into your account, into your own bank account, that's fraud.
Got a job.
And let me make that very clear for everybody that's on here. Do not give your money to somebody to trade. If the account is not in your name and it doesn't hold your own FICA, your money is not safe. That is extremely important. First and foremost, find a broker who's regulated. Secondly, make sure that your trading account is in your own personal name with your own FICA documents. You never ever transfer money to somebody. I had a case now that, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, somebody sent money to someone using Bitcoin and the guy disappeared. I was like, well, how are you going to trace him? It's not even a bank account that's registered to anyone.
It's not regulated either.
It's a relatively unregulated space. To try and find that person, firstly, is like looking for a needle in a haystack. And secondly, if you even do find them, what's the chances of getting your money back?
Well, while we're waiting for questions, let me ask you, what do you think are some of the trends with scams? Now, I'm not saying that there is honest business out there, and this, what we might share now might put us in a position that we miss an opportunity, but what are some of the telltale signs? So you mentioned one in somebody else's bank account, promise of
that
is
literally the biggest one, is people sending money to somebody. If anybody asks you, hey, here's my bank account, send me money, I'll trade for you, tell them straight away, no thanks, not interested. It's as simple as that. The second indication that you may be being scammed is when you want to withdraw funds and the person tells you need to deposit money in order to withdraw your funds.
So it's like, I've got $5,000, you need to put 10. You
Yeah.
put in 10, now you need 20.
Yeah, so we've made, and this happens all the time, is you'll put in, let's say you put in 5,000 Rand. A guy will send you a screenshot of a trading account or something and say, hey, we've made 30,000 Rand for you this week with 5,000 Rand. It's possible, is it likely? No. And then they'll say to you, so do you want to withdraw any of your profits? And you'll say yes. So they'll say, okay, well, send us 2,000 Rand and you can withdraw 10,000 Rand of your profits. My question is, why does it cost money to withdraw your money? A bank will charge you a very small withdrawal fee, but I don't know many brokers that charge any withdrawal fees whatsoever. So why would someone who's trading on your behalf need money to get your funds released?
Or need this money to release the same money back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. So those are telltale signs that you're working with somebody who probably isn't legitimate.
Fantastic. What's your biggest loss and what's your biggest profit been?
So, I like that question. I'm going to answer it differently.
Okay.
I've lost cars and made houses.
Okay, do you want to elaborate?
I'm not going to give you
Going to
exact
fund.
specifics on amounts because I don't think that this is the right space to do it. But what I can tell you is that I've made a lot more than what I've lost. And it's a very, very, very lucrative form of wealth creation if you stick to certain guidelines, certain rules, and have the right knowledge.
So we've got Philemon saying, according to your knowledge and experience, do you also agree or believe that Forex market is controlled by the market, aka hedge funds, big banks, etc.?
Good question. Can they control the market? No. Can they affect the market? Yes. So, just to put that into perspective, it must be around about $7 billion or $7 trillion a day that moves through the Forex market. Trillion. It's not billion. So, if you think of someone trying to move that type of market, do you know how much money it would take?
Plenty. Well, I don't think we can. I think it's too much for us.
Can you physically imagine how much money $7 trillion is?
No.
Can you imagine how much money $1 billion is?
No.
So $1 billion is a hell of a lot of money. It's a blip in the ocean in terms of $1 trillion. So to move that type of market, there's just no hedge fund that has the power to do that. Nobody. The only people who do have the power to move the market is the guys who create monetary policy. They come out and say, listen, so we're not hitting inflation targets. That's bad for the dollar. So they have the power to move the market, and quite often, don't quote me on this, I believe that when there's big potential international deals to be made, trade-wise, it may be beneficial to have a cheaper dollar or more expensive dollar, and the Fed will come out and say, hey, we need a slightly cheaper dollar next week for this deal we want to do with Russia or China or whatever the case may be, and they may do something to assist them. But it's not our job to understand that. Our job is to piggyback off of these big moves. I don't have $1 billion or $1 trillion to put into the market. Definitely not.
But if you can identify those moments,
those opportunities,
there we go.
And you can piggyback on those moves, that's where you make real money.
So, the Shonen says, what's your thoughts on people that provide signals, and what should we expect from them in terms of returns?
That is a very broad-based answer. And the reason for that is because you have legitimate providers and you have illegitimate providers. So thoughts on people that provide signals? Well, there are some guys who provide really good signals. And there are some guys who provide really bad signals. What I would suggest is, before dealing with someone who provides signals, is how long have they been around? Is there some form of track record about that company? Is it some backyard guy who's just sprung up and there's a little WhatsApp group that he's putting you in and saying, hey, here's signals, it's going to charge you 1,000 rand a month, or whatever the case may be? I'd be concerned about that. Is it a company like QuickTrade who is completely compliant, who's been around since 2014, who's got all the licensing in place, who's got professional, registered and qualified traders and actually send signals for free? There's a difference there. We're sending it through a professional channel. It's going into your actual MetaTrader 5 platform. It's not as if we're sending you a WhatsApp in a group to say, hey, listen, trade this, you're going to make bucks. Buy now. It's a very strategic approach to it. It's a professional approach. There's licensing involved. It's a legitimate source. You need to do your homework. That said, I do know some guys who have Telegram channels who send out decent signals. I've yet to meet anyone who has a WhatsApp group who's a successful signal.
Why don't you send out signals?
Good question. I used to.
Okay.
I used to provide signals. I found that very few people apply proper risk management. And because of the type of trader that I am, I'm longer term. There's not a huge appetite in the market for my type of signals. Guys don't want to be in a trade for 3 months. They don't want to be in a trade for 2 months.
Do you think if you send out a signal on this live stream tonight, you say, Oaks, we're doing this, or ladies, that you would be the biggest reason for the most losses for the day?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Why?
Because I don't look at here and now. I look at potential gains over a week, 2 weeks, a month. So when I open a 0.01 lot size on 100,000 Rand, chances are likely somebody with 1,000 Rand is going to open the same lot size.
Or more.
Or more.
So do you think because it says it's from Linton White, it's going to be a good one?
This is fantastic.
Full lot size.
And that happened time and time again when I was providing signals. Even though I scream off the rooftops till I'm blue in the face, trade at least this kind of lot size for this kind of account size, most people don't.
Okay. And
greed gets the better of them. So my type of trading, there isn't a huge appetite for signals on that type of trading.
And again, do you think that might be people want to make money now? I know that
yes.
Lockdown, we're all desperate.
It's different types of strategies. Signals that are popular and that do make money, shorter term signals, These are the type of signals that everybody wants. Nobody wants to take a tiny trade and be in it for 3 months. And that's why I don't provide signals anymore.
Botswana.
So, pardon?
Question in Botswana.
On Botswana.
Philemon.
Philemon.
Yes.
Okay, I just want
Roland.
our Botswana branch is. Okay, what did you ask there, Carl?
Can you say something about Zimbabwe? Got some traders watching.
Okay. Can you say something about Zimbabwe? Got some traders watching and want to confirm if the registrations going under the Botswana server are legit.
Ah, hey,
Hey,
Roland.
Roland.
Really good to see you here. Hobus and I met with Roland like 2 weeks ago on Zoom.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so there's big potential for Roland. So yeah, I'm excited that you're here, and I'm excited that you've got some guys on. Want to confirm if the registrations
The
going on the
server is
Botswana
legit.
server are legit. They are most definitely legit. Our Botswana branch is for our international clients. The South African branch is for our South African clients. It falls under a different regulation, under a different purview, and that's why we have the offshore setup for our international clients.
Fantastic. And so guys said there you've tested signals, okay, they're good, and he said basically saying, don't you make money if you lose? So-
If you send these signals, how do you then make money?
Money.
How do you make money
If we lose.
if we lose? Okay, so that's a good question. Yes, we do. We do make money when you lose. QuickTrade is an over-the-counter derivatives provider. The important thing to understand there is that it comes down to exactly the conversation I just had about my signals. So even though we can educate everybody to the max that we can, and we can try and help people to apply proper risk management, 90% of people don't. Greed always, for some reason, overcomes people. I understand it because for the first 3 years of my trading, that was the same situation with me.
Well, I suppose, and I don't know if I'm going to go off topic here, but let's take lockdown. How difficult is it to keep a mask on with the thought of others, if you get what I'm saying? So like to follow, for all of us to follow a certain structure and guideline became difficult.
Correct.
And we're seeing what's now happening in India, etc. Because it's not easy. And I think maybe that's what you're saying is the same thing with the
100%.
strategy, to follow something that's inherently different to the way you think. Is
Look,
it
guys,
easy?
I mean, business is business at the end of the day. And if the inherent norm in the country or in the world actually is that people will go and trade before they get the knowledge, it would be very counterproductive of us to not want a piece of that pie. Most definitely get the knowledge first, get the education first before you start trading. The problem is that people see the golden solution. They see this rainbow in a pot at the end of it, and they think, well, screw the education for X amount of money. I can put that money into a trading account, and I've got this guy who's going to help me trade, and I'm going to be successful from day one. Unfortunately, without the knowledge, the chances of you being a successful trader is not very good. So as a broker, we run under a V-book, which means that when you lose money, we make money. But when you make money, we pay you the money. So the guys that make money, we are giving them the money because they've earned it. They've got the knowledge. They are successful traders. And we'd be silly to not take a piece of the pie of those that don't want to get the knowledge first and just go and bump their heads first.
I suppose that question is like, why do tow trucks hang around certain wells? Because there might be a crash.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
So
Business is business.
But maybe with this question is like saying at QuickTrade being a licensed financial services provider, you can't deliberately send out bad signals.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. We are definitely under very stringent rules and regulations from the FSCA. We can definitely not be in a position where we purposefully send out bad signals. We actually send out signals that have been qualified and have been investigated, and the analysis has been done by professional licensed traders. There's absolutely no malice involved with those signals. The fact that the broker makes money on people who lose money is irrelevant, because at the end of the day, the mass of the market is in a position where people are like sheep, and they just follow each other. And unfortunately, what happens is when one guy says, "Hey, I'm a fantastic trader,"
Everyone follows that
everyone
person.
follows him when they do the same thing.
Or similarly, if you send out, like I said on this tonight, and you place the trade, everyone will follow you blindly. I'm confident.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, that would happen.
A book or B book? QuickTrade?
B book.
Okay. And then Mr. Molile, I know that you said that you want to learn how to trade. That's fantastic. Obviously, there's a form there, guys. I think that let's start wrapping things up in a sense, Linton. How can people reach you?
There's various platforms. Obviously, you can come here to this page that this is streaming on now. Instagram is also a place where you can reach me. If you just search for Linton White _Forex, you'll find me there. You can come and find us at the Rosebank office as well.
Okay.
We're at the Gautrain station. So if you physically want to come and meet us, make an appointment, pop in. You're more than welcome to come and meet us here. So, Facebook, Instagram, good places to get hold of me. I've got a full team of people here, and I delegate as much as I can in terms of the communication that I receive. So if you sent me a message yesterday and I haven't responded yet, I do apologize, but I will get it to a team member as fast as possible.
Fantastic. Okay, guys, so I would like to thank everybody who joined this evening. Let's give the next 2-3 minutes, and guys, please place your suggestions in the comment section. Okay, future videos, give it horns. Okay, put anything and everything there. Okay, and then obviously through that, what is allowed and legally allowed and is not going to get us into trouble. Okay, that we can bring more videos to you guys, and the videos that you want. I think that's important.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
So
what you guys want.
Bang out a couple of topics there, stuff that you'd like us to discuss. And remember that we'd like to progress with this. We don't want to just drive straight into massive technical analysis and that type of thing. Try and choose topics that would benefit people who are also just entering the market, or who would want to know more about trading and what it entails. I think we've covered a number of aspects this evening, a lot of them actually rather technical, from a spreads perspective and that type of thing. And I think a lot of the answers will help people understand how brokers operate, what to look for when choosing a broker, what type of accounts should I choose, that type of thing. So that's valuable information. So try and request topics that would be a logical progression, if I can put it that way. So don't just dive into what is Elliott wave theory, or please show us Elliott wave theory, because that's extremely technical. I'm probably not going to do that for a certain period of time.
How do I open an instrument on MT5 or navigating it or whatever?
Or maybe, like we said, the fib tool
or something.
Or what is a trend? How do you draw a trend line? Or any other topic. I covered the compound interest calculator earlier. We mentioned that.
We can also go to that.
That might be a really good
session.
It would explain the difference between conventional investment and what's actually available through trading. So
Philemon's got Fibonacci. Okay, so guys, please, this is important. Obviously, just throw your suggestions in there. Let's give it 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, and I just wanted to say thank you. I know that it's been a long time in the making, and I just think people out there are craving being able to talk to somebody who's got honesty and integrity, and I really appreciate what you not only do for us at the office, but what you can do for those people out there. So thank you for coming tonight.
No, it's only a pleasure. I hope that it reaches far and wide, and that we help as many people as we can. I'm very keen at making this a regular thing, and obviously it'll evolve from there, and it'll turn into something that we probably don't even see yet.
100%.
So I'm quite excited about that.
Yeah. Okay.
I see a lot of people asking about Fibonacci. I think we'll probably touch on Fibonacci.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do the compound interest setup first, so that we can explain how that works, and then move on to Fibonacci or some form of analysis. But keep your suggestions coming. Rudzai, it was good to see you attending as well. I see that your IB is shaping. I see there's some clients coming on board. Good stuff. We're looking forward to building that business. One of these days you'll be able to tell your boss, "Hey, I don't need you anymore." Good stuff.
Thank you, Treasure. Okay, and I see that so Ethan had a suggestion. Okay, obviously MetaTrader 5. Do you want to touch on that? Where can people find the basics on MetaTrader 5?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the basics of MetaTrader 5. There's There's actually a lot of information available on YouTube regarding actual MetaTrader 5.
Are there any brokers who offer a trading session?
Yes.
Okay.
I would start with watching some intro-based videos.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because it helps to have some form of understanding
Before you jump into
some kind of actual training. And the reason for that is you don't want to be the guy in the classroom that is holding everybody back. So we offer MetaTrader 5 training at QuickTrade.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great place to come to get training on how the platform works, how to set it up, how to place a trade, that type of thing. But it helps to have a lot of information. My YouTube channel is actually a great place to get information as well. So go check out, search for Linton on YouTube. There's a lot of strategy info there. There's a lot of
so I just want to type that in here if you don't mind, guys.
Yeah, sure.
So it's Linton White, okay, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your Instagram handle?
Linton White, one word, _Forex.
Linton White, one, I'm joking, _Forex. Okay, where else can they reach you? Facebook?
Facebook.
So it's Linton White.
Yeah. Well, you guys are here now, so hopefully you know where it is.
White, pro trader. Fantastic. Okay. Masechomas, you're going to have to come to us in Rosebank if you'd like to come and visit us here. Okay, physically. Okay, catch a car train, that's the easiest thing. It's right outside.
Yeah, the car train literally stops practically in our building.
Yeah.
So we can meet you at the door of the car train with a cup of coffee.
Fantastic. Final question before we leave, guys. Will Arsenal win tomorrow night?
No comment. Yes,
Yeah.
let's say yes.
In closing, is there one final word you'd like to say to everyone?
I think so, guys. If you're new to trading, don't give up. The most important thing is persistence and gaining knowledge. Obviously, your source of knowledge is exceptionally important, so don't go to the wrong people. That's always the most important thing for me, is choose your source of information, and don't give up. It's a long road, but it's very, very, very financially worthwhile if you stick to it and you master it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming, guys. Thanks for attending, and we're looking forward to choosing a topic for the next one.
Have a great evening. Stay
Cheers.
safe.